Hello, TikTokers. I just wanted to talk to you about shifting blame and responsibility and the will to defend ourselves. And why is this subject come up today? Because I was reading about Pontius Pilate and how he wanted to relieve himself of the responsibility of Christ's death, even though he was partially responsible for him coming there in the first place. It's amazing how when things get tough and when you're put in a position where you need to make a decision, you feel the need to relinquish responsibility and give it to someone else so that it can ease your conscience. But does it really ease your conscience when you know that even though you're not pulling the trigger, you've instructed somebody else to? For me, it's the same thing. I don't think I could go to sleep at night knowing that I had relegated an innocent man to death. But that is what happens. And even though Jesus knew he was innocent, he knew that he did not do anything wrong. Did he try to defend himself? Did he say, look, it wasn't me, it was someone else. You've got the wrong person. No, he was silent. And sometimes when we're being accused, it's the worst thing when you're accused of doing something you haven't done. For me, that's one of the worst things. I hate being accused of something I haven't done. I get indignant. I stick my feet in, my heels in, and I get angry and I try to defend myself and say, no, I didn't. Don't call me a liar, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out into a big thing when really, if you know you haven't done it, you should be at peace with what you haven't done and not try to defend yourself. And I think this is what this is showing us, how often we try to defend ourselves when we're accused wrongly. And it seems to be human nature. It's an instinct, it's an instinct we have to try and protect ourselves, to try and protect our reputation, to try to have a sense of dignity. And when we're accused of something wrong, it doesn't feel right. And so we're in a position where Jesus was there. He wasn't defending himself. Pontius Pilate knew he was innocent. And maybe he was hoping that Jesus would defend himself so he could get let off the hook. But it didn't happen. And sometimes when we're in relationships, that's what happens. We have our partners accuse us of things we haven't done, accuse us of being unfaithful because they've misread a message, accuse us of taking something when we haven't, something that's around the house, or accuse us of moving something or losing something. How many times have you accused your partner only to find what you were looking for a few days later? And how does that make you feel? And the funny thing is that no matter how you go back and tell your partner and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. I thought it was you. I'm sorry to have accused you. What it does is betray your trust. It means that your partner will start thinking, well, she doesn't trust me. She doesn't know me well enough to know that I wouldn't do that. I was watching a Korean movie because I love the Korean movies. And this boy, he looked a bit like a renegade, He had kind of silver and black hair, big boots, and he looked really quite sinister. Anyway, he'd been offered a job as an IT technician, and he was really, really good at it. And then somebody leaked the patent, or they made out like it was leaked. And the first person they turned to was him, because they thought he looked like a renegade. It looked like he had done it. And the thing what that triggered is something that happened in his childhood where he had been accused wrongfully. And that's why he'd become insular and bitter and angry. And it took them ages to beseech him and apologize. But the thing is, apologizing is all well and good, but without evidence. Why are you accusing? A lot of times we accuse based on what we think or what we believe or what somebody looks like. We make these assumptions, we create stereotypes in our minds. And it's not right. And likewise, because Jesus, it was envy why they wanted to kill him, because he was becoming more and more powerful than the kings and the rulers, just by being a simple person doing good. It's amazing how doing good can be threatening. When you're a nice person, it's amazing how people will be jealous and envious of you. You would think that because you're a nice person, that people would, applaud you and actually be quite nice to you. But when you have traits that are lacking in somebody, it creates envy. And regardless of whether it's good or bad, your traits, you'll always have somebody criticizing you and bringing out the worst, or trying to bring out the worst, or bad talk you, or make it look like you're not as nice as what you think. How many times have you heard someone say, oh, they think they're so nice, they think they're so perfect, look how they go on, I bet they're not really like that? Envy. And similarly with Jesus, that's what it was about. He was going around creating miracles. I mean, to be honest, to be able to create miracles, it must be quite a thing. And I guess, I'd like to think I'd admire Jesus rather than envy him. I mean, we'd all like to be able to, if our loved ones are dying, to bring them back to life. And if they're sick, to heal them, to part the Red Sea. Wouldn't we just like to do that? But it doesn't mean that we're going to go out of our way to kill the person who has that power, to kill the person who can do good for other people and better this world. But that's the world we live in. We live in a world of greed, of envy, all of the 7 deadly sins. That's the world we live in. And the good are very few and far between. As humans, we all have our faults. And as humans, we will always fall short of the glory of God. But we can try to do our best and try to admire people instead of envy them, so that you don't accuse them wrongfully, so you don't gossip behind their backs. Gossip is out of envy and bitterness and resentment. That's why people gossip. So if you try looking for the good in other people, and look for the good in yourself, you will have a better time and a better life and an easier conscience. Regardless of how you think you feel good after you've slagged off somebody or after you've done something wrong to someone, it will still niggle at you, and it will niggle at you until death, until you repent and say you're sorry. That's why a lot of people go to hell. I believe hell is the moment you have in your mind before you die. What you are thinking before you die. All of those regrets. All of the things you've done wrong. They haunt you as you're dying, because those are the things you recall when you know that there's no return. And so you have that eternal hell of regret, remorse, and unable to ask for forgiveness. That's why ask for forgiveness now. Do right now. Do good now while you can. So that if, God forbid, you're taken out tomorrow or something happens, you meet in an accident, and there's no opportunity to say sorry to those people who you want to say sorry to, or I love you to those people you want to say I love you to, you can go on the other side in peace. And to me, that's heaven. When you have no regrets, you've done nothing wrong, you've made your peace with God and those around you. What a peaceful way to die. I remember before my mother died, I made sure I told her everything I wanted to tell her. And I told her, I forgive you, Mum. I forgive you. Please don't have it against yourself for putting me in a foster home, because I know she carried that burden. And I'm hoping I released her. And I was able to tell her I loved her. And I saw the smile on her face. So all I'm saying is try your best to do your best. And that's all. I'm going to change my name to the Biblical Translator. Tell me what you think about that name. Bye-bye.